All right, 4 in the afternoon. Okay, we are going to move on to standards and assessment. Chair Booth. And can you turn Chair Booth on?
Thank you, Vice Chair Earl. We had some interesting information items, and particularly one that I want to just highlight is please make sure you read about the POPS program that we focused on in our achievement and progress information item. They are magnificent and doing such great things. We loved hearing the report. The first action item is action item number 4, and it has to do with our artificial intelligence framework for USBE, and the motion for the board is the board approves the AI framework draft 2.
Okay, and the motion before the board, hold on, let me look, that the board approves the AI framework draft 2. And is there any comments on that? Yes, Board Member Bogus, do you have a comment?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
And I don't know Vice Chair Hart Earl,
Yep.
who I would direct this to, but I'm actually looking for the privacy policies that we want in terms of AI and how we protect our students' intellectual property.
Okay.
Because I don't see that in the
Deputy
document.
Superintendent Patty Norman, and I just maybe an FYI, this is going to be coming before standards and assessment. It's going to be a running item because we feel like there's going to be enough change, and I don't know if, right, am I saying that right? That as we need to update, we feel like there needed to be a flexibility to be able to do that. So we're making a standard agenda item on our committee so that as we gather more information, we felt like it needed to be, right, a little bit more fluid. But I'll have Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman speak to that. Do we need to turn your mic on?
Yeah, Vice Chair Earl.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. There's a section in the framework that addresses all of the current policies, statutes, rules, regulations that are currently available that that are about data privacy. And so if you open up the framework, the section on that is, in fact, we have Melanie that can help guide us through what that section is if you'd like to have what those pieces are. We have an entire section during our SKY committee, and one of those is about data, and we have our Chief Privacy Officer who is a part of that as well.
I apologize. Is there a page number?
Yeah, want me to sit up there with you?
Because I see that, like page 5, for example, Superintendent, I see those, and that's actually not my question. My question is about how we're protecting our kids or our students' intellectual property, their intellectual property, and then and I forget my other question. What was my other question?
I thought it was about privacy.
Oh, the when students use AI, what is the privacy policy that governs that? For example, not necessarily with the app itself, but with access to like an entire device, because we have lots of those things going on these days. And
is there someone that could answer? Yeah, thank you. Katie, or yeah. Is there someone else or someone else? We want Katie to answer this problem. If she can't, then someone else can. Would you mind sharing with us what your thoughts are?
Sure. Yeah, Katie Chalice, the privacy director here at USBE. And actually, Vice Chair, I would benefit from perhaps like a restating of the question if that's
absolutely. Okay. Would you mind restating? What can you turn the mic on?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm concerned how we're protecting our students' intellectual property, because once it goes into AI, it's then kind of retained, chewed up, and spit back out as a product of AI. And so I'm wondering how we're protecting their intellectual property. And then my second question was actually, I don't like it when people ask me 6 questions at once, so let's start with that one, then I'll go to the other one. Thank you.
I have some thoughts about the intellectual property, but I actually don't feel like the subject matter expert. Do either of you want to speak to that?
I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll speak to it.
Oops. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Trying to decide how much to get into the weeds. It's a really good question, Member Boggess, about intellectual property, and this is obviously like a new space that we're navigating. I will say that there's some language in the standard data privacy agreement that our LEAs traditionally use when they're entering into agreements with EdTech products, including AI products. And it has some provisions in place specifically surrounding intellectual property. Primarily, the goal there is to acknowledge the protection of that intellectual property, and secondarily, providing an option for a student to transfer their student-generated content into a separate account. But I don't know to what extent that resolves your question.
Yeah, so I just, we can keep answering. I just want to just remind people this is just a framework to start with, but these are important things that we may even down the road want to make sure if we don't have something that Board Member Boggess is talking about, that we can actually insert that into our framework. Go ahead. Who's going to speak next?
Vice Chair Earl, may I address
Yes.
Board Member Boggess's question? Okay. One, we would love to have a study session on this, just so you know. Throwing that out there. Okay. Or if you want to just talk individually, we're more than welcome to meet with you at any point in time. Second, when it comes to the intellectual property, right now what's being done in most of our schools is they have what's called a walled garden. And within that walled garden is where information that they have that is secure, and that has secure to them, like a school AI. Here at the office we have Copilot that is secure, and that information does not go out. So they may be able to, if you look at like a hub, so you have this hub of information that's very secure, and it has sensitivity labels, it has privacy labels, it has different ways that it can be accessed or shared depending on what that document is. And then it has this whole, World Wide Web that's out here. When we have a walled garden that is a specific license, the information stays here. Students can go out and get something, but this can't go back out. So if it's their intellectual property, it stays within the walled garden and it doesn't go back out to the web. And so they would, if they pull something in, then they would say, just like APA format, they would say, I got that information from via ChatGPT, via School AI, via PowerSchool, whatever that is, but it stays then as new property once the student has created that new property. So their name goes on it, and that is theirs within the walled garden. It doesn't go out unless the student chooses to place that out on a public forum.
Yes.
Actually, that's really great information, and I appreciate that. And your hands actually were really great represent. I mean that sincerely. I'm not poking fun. Yeah. That was awesome. And I love that. My concern would be, can a student enter a contract to let their own intellectual property go if they're under the age of 18?
I'm not the legal on that, but I would assume absolutely not. I don't think that in our schools that we're having students enter into contracts. I don't think that'd go beyond the scope of what a school or a district would do. So,
so if I may, would it be safe to say it's not going out because they can't legally enter into that contract? No, I'm talking about the hub.
It would be based on what the school's agreement was, and so what the AI framework tells them is, we don't think you should let it go outside of that. So your school's agreement, the students would work under the school's agreement with the provider. So if the provider were Microsoft Copilot, the agreement would be with the school that the students are working under. And so our recommendation under the AI framework to the LEAs is that they keep it inside that walled garden. So it would be dependent on the school LEA that makes the agreement with whatever provider they're allowing their students to access.
And is it fair to say that's why we're putting out a framework, is to say this is a recommended
These are concerns
arena
that
to work in, right?
Yeah, these are concerns that you need to be aware of when you're working with AI and letting students work with AI. These are things that we recommend that you do to keep your students safe working in that environment and to keep your employees safe working in that environment as well.
I like that. May I ask one final question of
Yes.
our Attorney General?
Yeah.
So, am I hearing you correctly, and I know that these are not your words, they're mine, but am I hearing you correctly that a school can sign away a student's intellectual property?
No, the school
Because
is,
if these are recommended practices, that doesn't mean they have to follow
the school
them,
is
right?
signing the privacy agreement with the technology provider, the ed tech provider. The school is who is entering into that agreement with the ed tech provider.
But if that provision doesn't disallow it, it's allowed to happen?
It would be, yes.
Okay.
Board Member Carey, do you have Patty, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and as a follow-up,
No, you have a question.
thanks to Board Member Green, she directed me to the page number which you asked for, which is page 13. And on page 13, it does talk about the prohibited from, entering confidential or personally identifiable information. And then it talks about extends to contracted vendors. And so, and AAG abuse, I think that would follow along with what she was saying, is I don't think a school would be able to enter into.
We recommend they don't get it.
Yeah,
Okay, so may I just follow up and then ask?
Yes.
I really do appreciate the dialogue. Thank you. So we recommend that they don't, but they can enter into a contract that allows that. Did I hear that correctly?
So I'm just for reference, if you want to kind of check page 13. it'll
Well,
give you a
that's
little
just
bit-
it. I'm on page 13.
Oh, you are? Okay, that's why
Yeah.
you're asking the question. Thank you.
I have a comment on that.
Does someone have,
Board Member Klein.
well, just 1 minute. We're having someone respond, and then we have Board Member Carey next, and then we'll have you jump in, Board Member Klein. And Leanne, too. Okay.
Yeah, would you like me to speak to that, Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks. So I would say the framework is admittedly, yes, guidance and a recommendation, but LEAs are still subject to the requirements of anything that's in statute or board rule, and there is statute and board rule that places limitations on the data that can leave either directly from an EdTech product or from an LEA. So I think the protections are there, but they're not, this framework is obviously not like a binding document.
Okay. May I ask the second question?
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you. So my other concern is when these AI products are put on devices, do we have explicit provisions in place that say that application cannot access data or information outside the application itself?
Vice Chair. Okay, thank you. Assuming that that they've signed a what's the term? Data privacy agreement, DPA, then I would say the answer is yes. That there is language in place that prohibits that. If an LEA went rogue, again, contrary to statute, and entered into a contract with an agreement, there's no guarantee there, but that would be problematic because they wouldn't be following the law.
Okay. I see someone else coming, but I do
Okay.
appreciate the answer.
Yeah. Board Member Carey, are you wanting a question or comment?
Yeah.
Can you turn Board Member Carey on?
Thank you. Just to come, I don't know if you can ever get ahead of AI. It's moving so fast, but I think the goal is not to fall too far behind.
Right.
And I just want to thank the superintendent for her leadership on this. The committees that have already been established, and you have been working on this a long time, and you've reached out to board members, and I'm grateful for that. But I think the issues that Board Member Boggess are raising are very serious. I just saw a study, you're probably familiar with it, where they can take de-identified data and use AI to re-identify the people that we've de-identified. And so those things are obviously a serious concern. So thank you for everything you've done. Thank you, Superintendent. And I do think it will take us all being very vigilant on this. But thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Klein?
Yes, I'm trying to find it, the information specifically, but there's something that is going through right now, I think through the Federal Register, where they're trying to, or for FERPA, or one of the federal laws, where they're trying to change it so that the school or the administrators can consent for the child instead of the parent, and I don't know if that plays into this. And I just would like to get more information on that, and wonder if staff is looking at that, or our AG, to know how we can counter that so that we don't take that ability for parents to consent away from them, and allow the schools to be able to step in and do that where the parents may not be aware that that's happening. I don't expect an answer on that right now. If somebody could be maybe thinking about that, and if they know, then they can share. But I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 9, I have grave concerns.
Page 9. Did you say page 9?
Yes, page 9. Under safety alerts, it says AI could have the ability to monitor written student communications on LEA provided accounts. For instance, when students convey distress in their messages, the technology can analyze these communications and alert designated school personnel to provide timely support. I'm incredibly concerned about this 24/7 type of psychological surveillance that's, I don't know if it's already happening or if that's something we're looking into. Just the fact that it's in this framework as something that it sounds like the committee was okay with is frightening to me. Our kids being on computers should not, that doesn't mean that they sign away their privacy and that they can be constantly surveilled.
Anybody have a response?
I can respond to what's going on. Melanie might be able to.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead, Melanie? I'm just going to talk that with Jordan.
Do you want to turn this on?
Thank you, Vice Chair Earl. So, Member Klein, you might want to check in with Jordan about how they do this. It's very select in terms of the documents that they use. So, for example, student writing in a classroom. It's not they're not surveilling everything about the student, but it's very specific to the school, and it does pick up on excuse me, possibilities of is looking for self-harm, harm to self or others. So it's very limited in what it looks at. But I would recommend that you contact Jordan to see how they're using it. They might be able to answer your questions. I actually turned my light on for another item. May I continue?
Yeah.
I want you to look at the 4 people sitting here, and they're a microcosm of the work that Dr. Norman has been leading around AI. The thing that's so exciting about this, we have board members at the table, we have our IT director, we have data privacy, we have teaching and learning, we have all of these people so interested that we have multitudes of committees working on this. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to hear from, I'm not going to say her name correctly, I don't think, but I'll try, Mary Murati, and she was the founder of OpenAI, and she was very fascinating in talking about it's as important to try and break the system as it is to try and create the possibilities of AI. And this is something that Dr. Norman really insists on early on. So she and Director Felt have kind of like been tinkering with the AI tools that we use to say, what should we be looking out for? What should we be trying to break? What should we see that we can get ahead of? And so as I've been around and listened to other states and even industry about how they're going about this, we are ahead of the game, but we're far behind. I mean, that's kind of how it feels. Like because we have this collaborative effort and we've created this framework, I hope you'll all take advantage of the training that we just put together. That is amazing. Member Wood is driving me around in a Prius. We are avatars, and we are driving down the road to success with AI. And it's just, the training is awesome, but we won't let anybody even touch the app until they've had that training and gone through all of these things. So your questions are awesome. Like, these are the things we're trying to think about and get ahead of, and AI is out there and it's running fast, to Board Member Carey's point. But I just publicly want to say I'm so proud of our staff for the way they've leaned in, really spending a lot of effort around the parameters, that walled garden, even within our agency, because that's where we need to start first. We can't, it's an empty promise to just put out a framework for LEAs if we as the SEA are not implementing ourselves and leading the way. So thank you to staff who, in addition to all the other things you have going on, that you've not only been enthused about this, but you've done it with looking forward and having that value lens of how does it help and how could it harm all along the way. So I've loved being a part of the process, but Dr. Norman really gets the credit for leading the way. In fact, we have a little game that we try to see how long we can go in a conversation without her bringing up AI. That's how much she loves this. So shout out to you specifically, Dr. Norman, but to the whole staff that's leaned in.
Yeah, thank you. Board Member, yeah, go ahead. One more question.
I'm just concerned. I'm just concerned that my concern was kind of glossed over. What I'm hearing is that this is something that our schools are doing, and our children are being psychologically surveilled on a probably a continuous basis for any time something comes up that may look, the AI might recognize as a potential risk. And this is a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, or our students' Fourth Amendment rights. When we switched to a tech-driven education system, nobody was asked if they wanted to do that. The system just switched everybody, and that was the expectation. And now parents are asking for something non-tech, and they're told that's not tenable and it's not possible. And now they're stuck in a situation where their kids are being surveilled and monitored, and everything they say and do and write or type is being monitored also. And this is hugely problematic, and we can't just gloss over it and act like it's not a big deal. This is a violation of our constitutional rights, and our job as board members is to ensure that those rights are being protected, and not just by it's not okay that the government does it any more than it's okay to have a stalker come in and stalk a child. If it's not okay for a stalker, it's not okay for the government. That's just a basic principle, and that if we as citizens can't do it, neither can the government. So I don't know that I want a response unless it is to seriously address this concern and not sweep it under the rug or downplay it.
Okay, Board Superintendent, did you want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Member Klein. It was not my intention to gloss over at all, and I hope you heard how we're working very hard to protect student privacy. But in terms of how that might be used to look for harm, I gave you a concrete reference in your own district so that you could see it in real time and get those questions asked. We definitely hear what you're saying, and that's been part of our conversations. It's not a matter of us watching over, but I liken it to AI is embedded in Amazon and in social media and all of those kinds of things. And I think about, prior to AI, our teachers would read an essay. They might see a handwritten note. I'm thinking of my own experience, walking around a high school, seeing things written on a wall or a notebook that were clues for me as an educator to say this child is considering self-harm or harm to others. AI, the way that it's being used in some of our districts is to use those same mechanisms to pick up cues, but not surveilling everything that they're doing. So we hear what you're saying, and definitely we take it seriously. It's been part of our dialogue. Dr. Norman could put a punctuation mark on that. So I apologize if you felt glossed over, but I just wanted you to have the ability to talk to somebody who's using it and see concrete examples. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy
Well,
Superintendent Patty Norman.
I would just say that it doesn't make me feel any better. It's still our amendment or it's still our constitutional rights that are at stake. Just because everything's been systematized to destroy our rights doesn't mean it's right. And this is, just because everything's gone this way doesn't mean we have to be okay with our rights being stripped from us. And because it's been systematized, it's a much bigger problem to figure out how do we stop it. The minimum we can do is allow people to opt out of the tech, period.
Okay.
But we're not even allowing for that, which means this is an agenda-driven control model that does not protect constitutional rights that we all took an oath to uphold, and that is what needs to be addressed.
Okay,
and I don't want to hear any more if it's downplaying, because all I'm hearing is minimizing.
Okay, Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman.
Yes, thank you. Part of that question is that's the reason why we're bringing it back to the board or back to the committee every single month, is we realize this first go at these guidelines is something that's going to be changing over time. Those are some of our utmost concerns, and that's why we want to actually say that AI is only a tool. It's a tool like any other tool. It shouldn't be the main part of the day. It shouldn't be everything that they're doing electronically or online is not the appropriate use of any sort of tool for a full day of what should be happening in a classroom. So the types of things that are happening are what Superintendent Dixon spoke to, and I do know that it is a keyword search, like if a student types in a keyword, and usually that's within a writing assignment. So it's very structured in what it is they're looking for. I don't have all of the information on that, so I don't know that I can speak past that piece, but if there are really dedicated concerns and things that we need to look for, then please direct staff in looking towards what those concerns are, and we can see what that looks like in this framework and bring it back at a later time.
Okay, I'm just looking at time. We're going to take questions, so I'm not suggesting we're not. I'm just thinking about in 10 minutes, let's shift. So let's see. I think, oh, I'm sorry. I can't even see your light. I apologize. It's low. Yeah, go ahead, Board Member Lair.
I had a question. Well, I want to first make a comment to the responsibility for the school for the children during the regular school day. That really is more a Michelle issue than me, and I'm not going to make work for her by suggesting that maybe at some point she could speak to the school being responsible for all children during the regular school day who are attending school, and that goes beyond AI and into other Fourth Amendment issues. And so to say that there's no responsibility or it's a violation of students' Fourth Amendment rights during the regular school day to have any supervision by school is just wrong. And so I would hope that maybe at some point, Michelle, and it does play into this in an interesting way that I hadn't thought of. So at some point, I think it might be interesting to hear more about that. My question was also something that Michelle said sort of in passing about a few minutes ago, 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago, that hasn't been mentioned, and that is the school employees AI, I don't know if I call them rights or protections or something, but I don't know, because the standard has always been if the employee does it during the regular school day, it belongs to their employer. And I don't know if AI is changing that. And is that still the same despite the fact that it's AI? And I don't, this could go off in a whole long rest of the night discussion, but I just want to say if you're also evaluating employees' rights with AI as you're working on this.
Does someone want to respond
Patty,
to that?
I guess, is best.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, at this point in time, we have an internal policy, and we have some of those things addressed when it comes to our employees here at the USBE. We haven't delved into what that looks like for staff, other than when you look on page 4 and 5, where it starts talking about the code and statute and rule that's already in place. And I'm wondering, Melanie, if you have any of those that are specific, or if we just want to email back what those are that would address specific employees out in the school districts that are not USBE employees.
And I'm satisfied with just knowing that you are considering the employee discussion as well as the student discussion as you're working through this. And I didn't read all of these either. So.
Just
Yeah,
quick
go ahead.
follow-up, which is right now with regards to AI, I know I can speak to Microsoft specifically with Copilot. Once you create something within AI, it doesn't belong to Microsoft Copilot. It doesn't belong to AI, whoever, whatever that is. It does belong to the property of the person that's creating it, as long as they've cited correctly what resources they have used. So it does belong to the person after they've done the changes. AI,
Even as an employee of a
no,
school district.
So at this point, to my knowledge, and AAG Buse can, weigh in on this, it still would belong to the LEA or the district if it's done on our time, done on their time.
Okay.
And
That's,
that-
I just want to know you've got it on your.
Yeah,
in
and
the
we could
front of
have
your
it,
brain.
that additional
you.
discussion about that one if we
Thanks.
don't have enough. So thank you.
That's all I need.
Board Member Davis. I know Bogus got asked a few questions already, so if we're going to give everybody else at least a chance, and then we'll come back around if we have time.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing this to us monthly. I think it's important that we stay ahead of this. It really is, my husband and I are watching this happen outside, and kids are using AI right now. And it's impacting school, and it's impacting their lives. And so what are we doing in school to improve that situation? And thank you for the suggestion, Superintendent Dixon, looked at the materials that Jordan is using and went with Member Wood and Andrea Curtin to visit with the company that they're using and see what protections are in place to keep kids safe and how they see if a student is at risk academically, not surveilling, their emotional status, but what's their writing looking like, run-on sentences, fragments, what's happening, where are the risks there, and how do you fix that in the writing? And then it helps the teacher to see where they can address those. I'm timing myself. That's my timer. I guess I'm done.
You're good. Thank you. Could you all be more responsible like Board Member Davis?
1 minute.
I'm teasing. Okay, who's next then? Who do we have next? Board Member Green, I think you're up.
These are just kind of coming back up with some of the comments that I had made from our previous discussion in our committee, and that is that with the AI, getting ahead of it is important because it is here. I think it's fair to say that data being collected is far more expansive than what we can even wrap our heads around. And I mean, I'll just start with the first example, and I'm going to set a timer too. Ready, set, go. I gave myself an extra 30 seconds, so. is for example, an SEL program that we had. I went through and I looked at everything. I called the creator of it over in New York, talked to the lead person. What it does is that it disaggregates that, or aggregates it, I guess, and they can see all of the responses. So they literally can find out the belief systems and the way the emotional function of an entire elementary works. And I think those are the types of things that we need to really think about. Like when we say, do they have access to emotional data? Like, absolutely, I talk to the person. So I think, like, as we develop this, maybe we keep that front of mind that if you're using this, you have a trail. And we have to be responsible with that. We can't just say, oh yeah, it's just going to stay in the school. It's not, because that company has it. So kids, for example, we have the monitoring system, their online journals that they do, or the journals that they have with their Chromebooks. And my example that I gave was a student that said she's from a different country, and she used the phrase in her journal that day, I just want to end the day. That triggered a suicidal thing in the system. She was called down to the office. They were making sure she was okay. I'm just saying that they can isolate terminology and the biases, and so that can be wielded for good or for bad. And I think that so when we talk about free speech, thought, belief systems, whatever it is, whether you think it's right or wrong, that's part of the journey here. That exists. That already is. It is. So there's that. And then the other one is ChatGPT. You put information in. The funny thing that I shared was that the student put in the sentence that triggered it, or the program that was used at school, that it was plagiarized or it was generated by AI. It was not. It was generated by her. And so those are just unique, interesting things that we're going to have to deal with. And then I ended with AI becomes a new god, and we need to be careful. So anyway, I appreciate the document, and it's very complex, and I appreciate, you know, the conversation. I'm just going to say that AI is nothing but data, and we really need to be honest with ourselves when we say, oh, it stays. Let's think about if it really does. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member, okay, Bagas, do you have a question? We haven't come to Carrie yet, and we're running out of time. You sent it where? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So my question would be, and I too appreciate all this, how do we protect the content provided by AI so that it's not changed without this board's approval or parent knowledge in real time in a manner that wouldn't violate our standards, ethics, or our law?
Okay.
That's my question.
Something to ponder, and that's what we'll chew on.
And I can maybe put that in an email, but just something to think about.
Yeah. Will you send that question on?
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion before the board. Sorry, let me look at my place here. Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board approves the AI Framework Draft 2. And I'll let you know when that comes up. Okay, it's up for your vote. Board Member Bagas? Board Member Klein. Go ahead and vote. We need her vote so we can log it in. I just said that. And Leanne, Board Member Wood, are you on?
Yes.
You're a yes?
Yes.
Member
Klein is a no.
Board Member Lear, would you mind hitting Board Member Wood's? Oh, okay. She is a no. Klein is a no. Wood is a yes. I have two more people. Okay, so we have 11 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 no. The abstention, I'm guessing, is Board Member Bagas. Yes. And then no for Board Member Klein. Okay, we're on to the second motion out of the committee. Chair Booth, do you want to? Thank you, everyone, for your help on that. Appreciate it. Okay, go ahead.
All righty. The next one is action item 6, R277469, and this is Instructional Materials Commission Operating Procedures Amendment.
I think, sorry, that one, we've got to come back to that one because that one was in our special session, so there's no motion on this one. We'll come to it in just a minute.
469?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ahead here. You're doing a great job. Thank you. 469, we're there.
No, I'm not, but
my apologies.
Thanks for the...
I skipped ahead.
All right. So the motion for the board is that the board approves R277-469, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. The motion before the board is that the board... Oh, Board Member Klein, is that you?
Sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
It is. So I'm just looking at it, and it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the commission was repealed, but we still have a committee that will just take up doing what the commission did.
So this is and I can have staff speak to this. If you were able to listen to the Standards and Assessment Committee, we asked some of the same questions. But do we have someone that can speak to that? If not, I think I can get pretty darn close. So there's always been groups that have reviewed the content, okay? They set aside specific groups for whatever the content area is. If it's calculus, if it's foods and nutrition, and then their recommendations came to the commission that was repealed, and that commission would then review those recommendations. Have I misspoken anyway? Patty, is that accurate? Okay, so it's the commission itself. All these items are going to be reviewed. We will get the recommendation that comes from these review groups, and those groups are different depending on the content of the curriculum that's being looked at. So, and Patty, do you know how large those groups are normally? Is that 3 to 5 people? I don't know. Maybe that would help.
So there's
Yeah,
the reviewers.
The review
Sorry.
groups depend on the content and the scope of whether it's K6 or 12
Okay.
or what that looks like. So it depends.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Board Member Klein?
So is there? I guess I could see how that could be good, unless we need a group that's neutral, that's not, set on pushing the system in a certain direction in a certain area of academics. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. You're right. But they ended up repealing that during the legislature. So, Deputy Superintendent Norman.
Yeah, Vice Chair Earl, thank you. What they review is whether it follows the standards or not, and so the standards are what's approved by the board, and so that they would follow what that looks like, and that's their rubric.
Yes, that would be accurate. Okay. All right. The motion before the board is that the board approves R277469 Instructional Materials Commission Operating Procedures Draft 2 on second and final reading. And I'll let you know as soon as that's up. It's up before you if you want to go ahead and vote. Yes. Board Member Klein? Did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay. We're having a hard time hearing you. I'm not sure if it's your location or microphone or if maybe it's us.
Is that better? If I get closer?
Not really, but we can tell it's you. So, Board Member Wood, can you?
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't know. It just feels a little distant, and maybe we need to check on our end. Board Member Wood? Okay. She had an event tonight. So that passes unanimously with 12 votes. And we'll go to the next item. Board Member Booth.
Thank you. Our next item is action item number 8, Board Policy 5008, Student Advisory Council Amendment. And the motion for the board is that the board approves Board Policy 5008, Draft 2.
Okay. And I want to make sure people understand fully what this motion is, because I believe we have a sunset of May of next year on that. Okay. Right? Oh, it's June 30th? No. Okay, and I can, what's that? Oh, next June. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Then I add something at the end of that. But, okay, the motion before the board is that the board approves Board Policy 5008, Student Advisory Council Draft 2.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can tell you're speaking. We can't hear what you're saying, though.
I have a motion.
Okay. Go ahead with your motion.
To repeal the Student Advisory Council.
Board Member Klein, we can't hear you hardly at all. We can tell you're saying something. We just can't tell what it is. Do you want to try one more time?
Can you hear me now?
No, we can't hear you at all. If you want to, do you want to text it in? You can text it to Sybil or Vice Chair Hart.
All right, can you hear me now?
No. Well, I can hear that you're saying, can you hear me now? But I'm hardly hearing it.
My motion is to repeal the Student Advisory Committee.
Oh. Okay, your motion is to repeal the Student Advisory Commission. So you're making a substitute motion?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is there a second?
So I will second it for the purposes of discussion because I have questions.
Okay, Board Member Bogus is seconding it. Do you want to speak to it?
We have to listen really hard.
I know. We'll try to.
Because I want to hear her rationale.
Rather than waiting to have it sunset, I think it's just better to repeal it now. I don't think, students can get involved at their own level. I don't think we need an advisory committee. It ends up being student activism in a lot of ways.
Board Member Klein, I'm not sure what's changed in the last half hour or so, but we're really having trouble hearing anything. I think what you're saying is that
that's good.
If you wanted to call in, we could also put it on a microphone for someone. Okay. Oh, Jerry's going to call her. Okay. And while we're waiting for that, I just wanted to share, because we have a variety of options, right, of when we repeal. And speaking with the youth, the young woman that was here today is actually from my area. And I spoke with her last week with Elise Nui, and asked that very question. Is this better to repeal now or next year? And she felt like those youth that had committed for the next year, they really wanted to continue meeting and finish out up to next year. The other thing is there's a recommendation or some in replacing this, so to speak, or recommendation that we, instead of doing a advisory group for the youth, that we have we invite youth that are representative of their local districts to come to it, like a one-day event, and let these youth help put that on, that talk about the proper role of government, what the state school board does, what the legislature does, and then give board members the ability to come and engage with students from around the state. Either there's also higher ed as well as public ed students that are in these roles in their local districts. So there's that recommendation if we choose to do that. So I just wanted to speak to that while we're waiting to see if we can get board member Klein on. But the youth themselves that have come this year, they normally go junior, senior, and they wanted to finish out, and that's why it was a year out, so that they could finish out they wanted to finish that out. So just sharing that for this group here. But oh yeah, we can ask. Go ahead, board member Bogus. We'll go you first, and then I don't know who's after that. But
I just don't see too many changes in here. There's just like like a very small synthesis, right? Just tiny things. Okay.
And that's just, it's the date, and then they had some kind of I can't remember. Yeah, it was minimal. Yeah, an attendance thing, that's right.
Like an attendance requirement for I don't have it pulled up. I actually pulled my screen down for a minute. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, board member Lair?
I am really kind of disappointed in hearing that there's discussion that this group is going to be disbanded. I think if anyone's dropped the ball, if anyone hasn't, the student advisory committee we're talking about still, right?
Yeah.
Right. If anybody's dropped the ball, it maybe has been the board in not engaging with them more often, in getting to know them, in giving them meaningful things to do. I know it started out well a couple of years ago, and I actually was a great proponent of this group because I had met with a national, with NASB on this exact kind of issue, and many states mentioned how active their student advisory committees were, to the extent that some boards spend a whole day interacting with them. And I think if we go to the one shot in the arm experience with popular kids in the school, and I'm exaggerating for effect, but I think we're not going to have, we won't have the chance to have an ongoing relationship with young people from across the state who can help us understand what they want. These other states had very meaningful, ongoing relationships with groups like this. And I think we are doing a terrible disservice to young people if we're not actively involving them and making them, giving them a chance to be successful in this group. And that's on us, it's not on them. And if people will say, well, they're not coming or we're not interacting with them, again, that's our lack of understanding of how valuable they could be. So I would hate to disband this group without doing a better job on our part of engaging them in the work we're doing.
Okay, board member Rell?
Sorry, for clarification, we're not talking about disbanding, right? We're talking about reevaluating.
No, it's sunset next year. Yeah.
I understand that part, but I thought that the...
Right now, the motion on the board, yeah, if you're talking board member Klein's motion.
No.
Board member Klein would need to do that right now.
Okay, but I was under the impression that it wasn't that it was gone away forever, but that we would re-look at it when it sunsets to reevaluate.
Yeah, where we would be doing either a fall and a spring and a fall kind of a thing, or a one-day thing.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes.
Okay, so it's.
And I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding, but I heard you saying, Jenny, that we do a one-time event, like a Stand Up for Teachers event with young people. It wouldn't, which I think is pointless. I think we need a solid group of young people from around the state that we can learn from, engage with, give them meaningful work to do, and let them come back to us, not just have an event.
And I agree with you on that, but I think the discussion that we've had is that there is actually, it's a lot of staff time. As the our student this morning from Ridgeline mentioned, that they also have low attendance, and so the way that it's structured isn't working.
I'm fine about reevaluation. I just don't want. I personally don't want in advance to have a twice-a-year meeting or a big event. I want to have a working group of young people who can inform the board's work.
So there's I'll just speak to some of the other dynamics of it. Because we have seniors and juniors, often we lose about half of them throughout the year. There just is that lack of commitment there, and then there is the time commitment on our staff. And remember, the structure of it itself prevents the board members from actually really being part of it. So as much as we we met, Jim and I met with them 2 or 3 times. They invited us to, but we've never given them an opportunity to come and talk to the board about meaningful topics. That's the problem. It's not that they're ineffective. We've never built them into our decision making. Okay, thank you. Board Member Davis.
Thank you. I've only attended one time the Student Advisory Commission, but I really believe that whatever we do, an advisory commission is for them to advise. They are in the halls of these schools every day in our charters and in our districts, and they know what they know. And I remember going and listening to them for an hour, and I learned so many important things, and they were talking specifically about skills inside of a variety of classes that were the most beneficial to them to the least, and they felt would lead them to the building blocks they needed in college and or beyond to the least. And every time we talk about standards now, I think about the things that those kids said, and it helps really guide my thoughts and my decisions. And I felt like that day they advised me, and I learned from them. And I don't think they need to come here for us to teach them. I think that they need to come here so that we can learn from the very people that we are trying to serve. However we restructure and whatever that looks like, I think that's what it needs to be.
So what I would, and just in response to that just a little bit, I think that is what can be done, right, with this more condensed. Oh my gosh. So that is the other thing. Okay, the other thing that came up was you're talking 15 members, and they were having a hard time figuring out how to actually get representation on their full area, on the different schools, trying to figure out how to do that. So that's another thing to take into consideration that was brought up as well. But I do think if we were able to reach out to those that represent in their communities and allow them to come and have the discussion that Carol's talking about, asking questions of them. Board Member Norton, and then sorry. Board Member Norton, go ahead, and then we'll.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking, and I like the idea of them coming here, but I also like the idea of having this be the group that we can send out a Qualtrics survey about cell phones in school, or we can send out a Qualtrics survey, or not even Qualtrics survey, but through written communications. But we can tap their minds and their thoughts, because like you said, they are the ones that are there. I don't know that I'm thinking of my San Juan representative or my Washington County representative. That is a long, hard day when you're in school, and also these students are so active in the many things that they're doing. But maybe we can get their insights and guidance, Zoom, all these other wonderful technology things that we've been talking about, and yet still use that information that they have to provide for us.
Thank you, Board Member, our Chair Moss.
I'll just join that. We want to be asking these kids, so as we consider all the challenges that have made it difficult for them to fulfill their purpose, I think some of it is us. I've reached out a bit, but not enough. I remember seeing them up on the hill and thinking I got to talk to these kids more, and I didn't. So, you know, I would love to hear from them. I've said it before, when you're a fisherman and you finally get a chance to talk to the fish, you got to take it. Right? When I was a young lawyer and I became a law clerk and I sat there and listened to people arguing their cases to me, that was invaluable when I became a lawyer. I'd been on the other side and I saw what was good and what wasn't good, and so I really hope we can reconfigure it in a way that allows us to tap their input. And I've thrown out, and I think we're going to have a broader discussion, I've thrown out, because I have 2 college kids, that might be an interesting element of it too. And when you get into college, what do you wish we had done better for you? What do you wish we had, right? So there's a lot of questions there, but I fully support the idea of reconfiguring this in a way that is doable, more effective, but we get their input and it helps guide us. They're the ones we're here for. So I fully agree. I don't know the appropriate process and timing because it came out of standards, but I support that idea.
Okay, Board Member Bogus.
Are you able to hear me now?
Just about, yeah. We'll do Board Member Bogus, and I think we might be able to get you in. Oh, go ahead, Board Member Klein.
So can you hear me
There you
okay?
go. Yes, that's better.
Okay, I logged off and got back in, so thank you. My concern about anything where the students are advising us or we are looking to the students to get their input is, or even when we bring them in to speak to the board, it seems that more and more they have been groomed to push activist agendas. And we're not, because they're kids, we're not allowed to argue with them. We have to treat them with kid gloves. We already have a hard enough time as adults digging deep enough to make wise decisions, and yet we're asking these kids who are easily influenced by the culture around them and easily groomed to put forward these emotional arguments, so that we have to that we are expected to just take at face value and not question or argue with. And so that is my concern with anything related to elevating student voice and choice, because more, and especially when you combine that with the new push for civic engagement, it's turning into children being used as activists for political causes, and the adults in the room are not allowed to push back because they're kids. And that's why I think it is ill-advised to put the kids in that position.
Okay, Board Member Bogus, and then I have Board Member Booth after that. Can you turn her phone?
Thank you. So just in response to Chair Moss's comment, I have reached out, and that goes both ways, right? And so perhaps we could do better, but I think the other side can do better too, if that is a fair assessment. Secondly, with regard to this vote, I know that the motion on the table is to repeal, but should one approve this update, as I look at this, all we're approving is some changes to travel-related expenses.
And the sunset date of next year.
Oh, I guess I did not see that in, okay.
The top.
So that makes sense to me. So 2 minor things. And I just want to kind of bring that back because I want to make certain I'm clear, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Board Member Booth.
Thank you, Vice Chair Earl. I am grateful for the opportunity to just get this vote taken and to be able to then spend some time evaluating what we might want to do in terms of adjustments to the program. My entire career has been built on interaction with students and feedback from students, and I have always welcomed and enjoyed the creative experience, the learning experience of involving students in the process, exploring new ideas, creating together. And I believe from my personal experience with NEBO board and with the MATC board that I was on for 16 years, that those frequent interactions with students were very valuable experiences, and we were able to do with the information we received exactly what we wanted to do with it. But it was just a wonderful forum and a wonderful opportunity to be in touch with the people that we're serving, that we keep right at the forefront of all of our important decisions. So I welcome their input. I'm excited about what we can learn about how we're doing and what we want to do in the future to ensure that they are ready to walk through those open doors that public education opens for them. And thank you very much.
Okay, the motion before the board is that this board member Klein's motion, and I'm looking to someone help me find it. Is to repeal the student advisory committee.
She said commission, but I think she
Council, yeah. So the motion before the board is to repeal board policy R5008 student advisory committee. And we'll take a vote on that, and then we'll take a vote. This is a substitute motion. Okay, go ahead and vote. Oh, Board Member Klein, what's your vote? So this is to repeal. This is your motion. Board Member Wood? No. I heard a no. Did you guys hear a no? Okay. I don't know who that was, though. Leanne. Leanne voted no. Board Member Klein, can you try again? For some reason, we're having trouble hearing you again.
I'm a yes.
She's a yes. Okay. So that's 14 votes. That's 1 yes, 1 abstention. Who abstained? August abstained, and then whatever that adds up to noes, 12 noes. And then the motion before the board is that that the board approves Board Policy 5008, Student Advisory Council Draft 2. We'll wait for that to come up. Okay, the motion is before. Cindy, are you having a question before we vote? Okay, sorry, just a minute. Board Member Davis. Sorry, late on that one.
I have a substitute motion.
All right.
That we approve the changes in draft 2, and instead of setting a sunset date of 2025, ask our Student Advisory Council to review the rule and the purpose and come back with suggestions as to how the advisory group would work, and send it to committee and have a committee look at that. So instead of sunsetting it, we revise it to what we want it to look like and have the new applicants for next year apply as such.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, no second? All right.
I second.
Okay. Board Member Booth is seconding it.
So can I speak to it?
Yeah, please.
I just think that we need to, I just guess I don't understand why we would be sunsetting it instead of revising it to make it more effective. Like, why we're going to say we're going to end this thing in 2025 and then we might think about it after. Why aren't we thinking about it now? And
no one's reading
and then
motion.
Getting feedback from the students, getting feedback from a committee, revamping the way it needs to look so it fits everybody's needs better, making the changes that have been suggested about attendance and such here, and then moving forward.
That's, I'm going to read the motion, the other motion that came out of committee, and it's not actually on here, so I don't know how that works. I'm just going to say that because this is the other motion that came out. It was after this motion. Let me find it. So the motion was that the board invite the student members of local boards, higher education, student leadership to represent their district, college, or university at a statewide half-day, or it could be full-day convening, recommend March or October, provide lunch or dinner, send out questions for students to consider, and a discussion about key education issues relevant to current legislation, policy, or the board's mission and vision. State board members will engage with the youth to ask questions, gather insight, and provide feedback. That would be the intention versus a ongoing group that has just 15 members. It would be actually encompassing the larger scope of those individuals, and it could be we could hold that twice a year or just once. That's kind of the thought process. There's a number of reasons why, and one of those is even this amount of staff time and trying to organize it and how many students we're getting. And but if you want to, I would speak against this.
They currently meet quarterly, is that right?
What's that?
They currently meet quarterly?
No, correct me if I'm wrong, it's either every other month or once a month. Is it once a month? And then they have I don't know if they meet in like December, and then as it gets closer to the end of the school year. So it's frequent. It takes a
I mean, I would substitute that so they meet quarterly. It would cut down on staff. It would be less, but there would still be some continuity. They could get a project, they could work on it, they could come back prepared, ready to speak. It's not like come in and we'll give you a pizza.
You making another amendment to your motion?
Yeah. I'll amend that instead of sunsetting that they meet quarterly. Beginning next school year.
Okay, is there anyone that has an objection to that? Do you want to? By acclamation?
Yeah, I think they could still bring back suggestions of how those quarterly meetings would look and such.
Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board approve the changes in draft 2, and instead of setting a sunset date of 2025, that the council meet quarterly beginning next school year, 2024-2025. Okay, okay, go ahead, Chair Moss.
Would this include the process you described earlier for asking for feedback on revamping the structure or
I think they
interaction?
I think they could bring back their thoughts about how to structure the quarterly meetings, for sure. And if they had feedback that says it should be different than quarterly, that we can listen to that too at that time.
I guess my question is, would it include a broader discussion of what's the purpose and flow of the group? Is that intended to be part of this, or would it just continue as it is except change the frequency of meetings?
It surely could include all of that.
Some of that kind of reconsideration. I guess our staff time has come up as a concern, and I'm sensitive to that. I want to make sure we have continuity and feedback from these kids, but
yeah,
not have something that takes a lot of time and
Agreed.
is not producing.
Agreed.
So, okay, well, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve the changes in draft 2, and instead of setting a sunset date of 2025, that the council meet quarterly beginning next school year, 2024-2025.
Yeah. Board Member Klein is a no.
Okay, I'm still missing, I think, Board Member Wood?
Yes.
Board Member Wood is a yes? And I think I'm still missing one. Okay, the motion passes. The noes are Green, Klein, Bogus, Carey, and Earl. Okay, I'm not sure. Do we need a? Was that a substitute motion? Okay. Okay, so that would go to the next thing. Go ahead.
Okay, the next one. The next one is Board Policy 5001. The motion for the board is that the board approves Board Policy 5001, Advisory Committee on Equity of Educational Services for Students, Draft 2, with a sunset date of June 30th, 2024.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approves Board Policy 5001, Advisory Committee on Equity of Educational Services for Students, Draft 2, with the sunset date of June 30th, 2024. And your vote, Board Member Klein?
Yes.
This is not that. This is not.
Board Member Klein?
I said yes.
Okay, sorry. And Board Member Wood?
Yes.
She said yes. I think that was Wood. No, this isn't student advisory.
Student success.
What?
In every.
This is access.
Yeah, this is access.
Yeah. She did say yes. No, this is a different, this is the different policy. Yes, and that's accurate. It's the Policy 5001, Draft 2, with a sunset date of June 3rd, 2024. We do have, and maybe this is behind, we've already talked about what that committee needs to look like, some kind of a success committee. It was sitting, we didn't have time at the last meeting to do that. So, but if you would like to, I have additional information, but we haven't had time to discuss it.
Yeah, so because
actually, hold on a second. We got to finish our vote, and then I'll let you talk, okay? I have 3 more votes out.
So I would like to speak to my vote. Please.
Okay. Who are we missing? We've got 2. Straight and Lair. Straight, did you vote?
This is Board Member Wood. Can I ask a quick question?
Am I still waiting for one person? Okay, this passes with 10 yes votes, 3 abstentions, which are Bogus, Lear, and Straight, and then 1 no, which is Davis. And we had some comments. Board Member Rill?
I already mentioned it previously, but based in our discussions talking about HB 261, this needs to be reevaluated and looked at because it no longer the makeup and the mission and the goals of this committee don't work under HB 261. So it needs to be completely reevaluated.
Okay, Board Member Bogus? Do you want to turn first?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So I don't necessarily disagree with a sunset of this committee. What I struggle with is that I actually communicate with multiple members of this committee on an ongoing basis. And I actually find great value in our conversations and great benefit from the discourse that we have there. And what I struggle with is that those individual conversations have far greater value for me as a board member than any interaction or memo from this committee ever has. And so it does cause me consternation to vote for something like a sunset when I see value in the people, but not value in the committee. And so I just want to put that out there and let us think about it, because those conversations have been extremely beneficial in my world and in my time as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll add something at the end too. Board Member Green, I don't know if you're next or Davis, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just think adding on to what Member Bogus said, I've also talked to some Access Committee members. I've interviewed twice for that. It's one of the first things I did as a board member, and I was blown away by the work that some of these applicants had as far as what they were already doing in their communities and the way that they, they were able to communicate needs. I think one of the most impactful conversations I had is they were saying, kind of on a frustrated tone, that they're being put into a box based off of who they are, and they're like, but the broader picture is that if something helps a specific group, it's going to benefit everybody, and that's what they want that to be. Unique feedback from the field as teachers, specific to, kind of more broad and expansive view on problems, and because I think what they're saying is that they can isolate those to their specific area, and I think that those conversations are very beneficial, and so I do look forward to some of the ideas and concepts that we had talked about in committee.
Yes, Board Member Davis?
Yeah, I'm looking at where it says membership and the changes that were made, crossing out the individual groups and leaving that members would be included with expertise or experience serving underrepresented students or students at risk for underachievement. And that is what aligns it with 261. So there doesn't need to be a sunset date. So I don't know if it's too late to make a motion that we adopt the language minus the sunset date. I felt like we didn't really get any time to have discussion before we voted. But I would adopt the language that aligns it to 261 and then cancel the sunset date and see how we do putting a team together with that general category of expertise or experience serving underrepresented students or students at risk for underachievement.
So Board Member Davis, we do have a framework, meaning that we've had quite a bit of discussion of what that needs to look like. We could include that in it if you'd like. Would you like that to be part of that?
I guess help me understand, because this looks to me like the whole committee sunsetting in June.
It is. Yeah.
So I'm saying I would make a motion right now to adopt this draft.
Yeah.
Oh, I was not on the prevailing side, so someone else would have to do it.
Can I, it's just two things. Did meet with Access Committee members, I did too, in relationship to this, in relationship to the specific work and such that's been done, which has already kind of been voiced. These individuals are highly involved, and the chair of this are highly involved in a lot of things, and they will keep being involved. I don't think this precludes them or removes them. I do think that I actually feel like we need to move towards some kind of a success, meaning that using some of the language from the bill itself, looking for some of those same things you're saying, but also where we're looking for merit-based type of things. And I'll see if I can pull up my language. I don't have it right in front of me, but just some recommendations that we had as discussions from that committee. And I don't know, maybe you didn't get a chance to listen to committee meetings, but that was at the end of that as well. So thank you. Our Board Member Davis, are you on for something? Okay. Sure.
I would move that when those things are considered, that we provide dare I
Notice?
say, preference or notice to all our current access committee members that changes are coming and that they can reach out to us individually as opposed to a memo from the committee itself, so that we can have those conversations that have seemingly brought more fruit than a group memo.
Okay, and who oversees that? Holly Bell? I think can we put a letter together? Did you hear some of that a little bit, that we can reach out to them, and then we'll make sure board members see that as well?
Yeah,
Does that
that we can interface there, so that as we move forward, they have that I don't want to call it a preference, because that's not what I mean, but that way we've engaged with them in a fruitful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Norton. Well, sorry, we can maybe do a formal motion.
So that we can direct staff to make certain that they're noticed.
Okay. Okay, the motion before the board is that when the advisory group policy changes are considered, the board provide notice to committee members and allow for individual committee members to reach out to board members with feedback. Okay, we have a second, right? Okay, all right. Any discussion to that? Okay, the motion before the board, would you let me talk slow? Okay, the motion before the board is that when advisory group policy changes are considered, the board provide notice to committee members and allow for individual committee members to reach out to board members for feedback.
I have a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think a motion is necessary to do that. Why do we need a motion to say that board members can talk to people who are on the committee?
I think it's the notice that was the full intent.
So it's a shadow advisory committee if we do this.
It's not a committee at all. It's just providing notice to the committee members.
Yeah, but then they are a shadow committee. Then if they're not an official committee, then why are we sending them a notice?
New committee.
I disagree with this wholeheartedly.
Patty Norman, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Earl. As I look at this, it is they will no longer be committee members, so that when advisory group policy changes are considered, if this passes, they'd no longer be committee members. So I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to change something?
Thank you. So that when this policy, you talked about changes to this policy that are impending because it has not yet been sunset. When that comes, I think we need to notice the members of this committee. I don't believe we need to notice them on everything under the sun, but when the changes to this committee come, I think we need to notice these members so that we can have that conversation. And I'm not asking them to be noticed in perpetuity, but I do think that giving them timely notice so that those conversations can take place is a fruitful movement.
Why do we need to notice them beyond just saying that the committee has been sunsetted?
No. Okay. Who's? Okay, the vote is open now. Are you speaking to it before we vote?
I think so.
Board Member Norton, sorry, we got a light on, and you haven't spoken yet.
My thoughts on this would be that maybe, I mean, it's not necessarily to this, but it's similar to this, and if I'm out of line, just tell me and I will be quiet. But going forward with all of our advisory committees, would it be possible that when something comes up on an agenda that they have discussed, that we have their official feedback as part of our agenda? So, I mean, I realize that, you know, we don't necessarily meet at a time that they can speak in public comment, but, you know, if there's something that comes up on an agenda and we've had an advisory committee that is our advisory committee discuss this, that if they came up with some resolution or some conclusion, that at least we are aware of that.
So correct me if
right on the
correct me if I'm wrong. That is what has always taken place. You get the agendas that they have for their meetings monthly. You get their things, and then when they bring a recommendation forward, this is the same with our math group, APAC. This is the same with those other groups, that they actually bring those before us. Access has done that as well as other committees. So it's not.
Can it be part of our meeting agenda? Just, you know, listed right on our meeting agenda where we have, you know, consider this proposal, and then right down underneath it say, you know, XYZ committee, committee recommended blank. We don't have to take that, but we listen to public comment.
I think if three board members wanted to ask for that, right? Because we're asking to add something new to the agenda. So if yes, if you wanted to do that, then we could do that. So okay, Elise, do you have your? Go ahead.
I just had a clarifying question for the motion. So when I first heard the motion, Board Member Boggess, I understood that as applying to all advisory groups. So for example, we have Trust Lands Advisory, you just mean for this particular advisory. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, go ahead and vote. I think we're ready.
Okay.
Board Member Klein is a no.
Board Member Wood?
Yes.
Like, I don't think so.
I actually changed my vote just to test.
Okay, so we have one vote left. Who are we missing? Okay, we're good. Okay, so something votes. The no votes are Davis, Klein, and Straight. Okay. All right. Next agenda item. I think we go right into point of order or something. Elise. Yeah, we did.
The underlying motion is that Access Committee will sunset on June 30th, 2024. Then the next motion is that in the meantime, between today and June 20th or June 30th, 2024, that Access Committee members will still be involved in the process, but up and after that date, they are no longer a committee member. It's dissolved, so they won't be communicating with the board.
Yes,
okay?
That would be accurate, and we're
sure.
working on a different proposal.
Okay, thank you.
And that's remember
sure.
that's been in our committee for the last.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep.
I think it's important to remember that many of these individuals have reached out genuinely with great ideas, and I think to not honor that is to be a little purposefully deaf. That I don't know how I want to articulate that, but those conversations have been very fruitful. That's all I'm going to say.
We are actually going to take a 5-minute break. Stick pretty close to 5 minutes. Dinner will be here in an hour, which we're going to finish up the library stuff by then. So. So, take a 5-minute real quick here.